Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3. We're here with Microsoft for Lawyers, and today we're talking all about chatbots. Remember, if you missed our last sessions, you can catch up with them. They're on YouTube, also on our website at Barhead. You can go and find them. We'll kick off here in about a minute or so. Let us know if you're joining us as well. So if you're on LinkedIn, we have the chat and the comments section there. Feel free to pop a bit of hello, let us know where you're joining from. And we are live, by the way, this is live. So if you do have questions as we go throughout the session, get them in the chat there. There's myself, there's Amanda here. So we'll be answering those as we go along. So keen to hear what you think about today's session. And of course, today's one, we're going to be looking at Power Virtual Agents and chatbots. For people just joining, say hello. If you do have any issues with the stream as we go along, you might just need to refresh your page on LinkedIn, and then that usually does the job. And I put a comment in the chat there as well. Make sure you can hear us. There's usually this other step where you need to click unmute on the video to make sure you can hear us. And Fiona, yes, this is recorded. So right after we present today, you'll be able to find it on YouTube and also on the Barhead website. You'll be able to go back and watch it, which is a great way, of course. If, we're showing you how to build things today, you can go back at any time to go and see how it was done if you wanted to try this out on your own. All right, so I reckon we're good to go ahead and kick off. Amanda, do you want to get us started then?
Thanks, Roshona. And just a quick introduction for myself. So my name's Amanda Fadgerman. I'm the Engagement Manager for Consensus, which is a matter management and contract lifecycle management system built on the Microsoft platform. And I've got a real passion for helping lawyers with their legal technologies, and in particular to try and fulfill all their legal technology needs through the Microsoft cloud. Just first off, a acknowledgement of country. On behalf of Barhead, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Boonwurrung, Boonwurrung and the Wurundjeri peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, and pay respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are joining us here today. I also want to acknowledge our fabulous event partners, the Centre for Legal Innovation and the Australasian Society for Computers and the Law. We're thrilled to present this series with you and to further our mission to innovate the legal industry. As Roshona said, this is the third in an 8-part series we're presenting today on Power Virtual Agents, which is Microsoft's chatbot engine. So this is the third session. As just a reminder, if you've missed the other 2 sessions, please feel free to go back, check them on the Barhead LinkedIn page or on YouTube. You can watch them on demand at any time because we're constantly building on the skills we learned in those previous sessions as each session continues. So just to reiterate, our target audience here is any type of legal practitioners. There's going to be some elements which are focused more on those of you that are in private practice, and there'll be some which are more focused on those that are in corporate legal departments. But essentially, it's looking at ways that lawyers can use the tech that they already have, looking at ways to make their lives more effective and more efficient and automate some of that mundane work. So we really want your input. Please add comments to LinkedIn. Please tell us what you'd like us to see, like us to address in future sessions, and give us your feedback. So just to recap, Microsoft is this is how we set the scene. Microsoft is essentially an ecosystem of interrelated, integrated applications for productivity, collaboration, and enterprise-wide data management. And Microsoft Teams sits as the skin or an entry point into all of those different applications. So in the first session about a month ago, we presented on Microsoft's productivity tools, how teams can use tasks, To-Do and Planner to better manage their work. About 2 weeks ago, we covered how teams can use Power Automate to automate their processes, such as approvals, notifications, and documents. And we created a flow to help automate some of those documents. And today we're going to cover chatbots and see how teams can use conversational AI to help manage intake, triage, and self-service. So conversational AI is an integral part of any industry, and it's projected to reach the $15 billion market by 2024. And legal is no exception. So Microsoft Power Virtual Agents provides a no-code experience for lawyers who are looking to rapidly respond to legal inquiries. And they have become ubiquitous chatbots across all industries over the last decade. And forward-thinking legal departments and law firms are looking at ways to interact with their clients in new and in innovative ways, and to take some of the pressure off their lawyers and that frontline staff. So it's best known in the form of some sort of triage tools. So I've got a client, I need a problem, help me find a lawyer. But there's so many more ways that chatbots can be used. They can, answer questions on their own, automate processes, book consultations, etc. So the power of Microsoft's Power Virtual Agents is not just in its chatbot capability. Roshona is going to take us through how many ways it can be used, how many channels it can connect to, and how you can connect to Power Automate for a lot of the underlying automation that can happen behind the scenes. So Roshona, can you tell us a little bit more about Power Virtual Agents?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Amanda. Before I get into that, just want to give a shout out in the chat there. We have a question about the session recordings. So I'm sorry, I can't see a name come up here, but yes, don't worry, this will be recorded. And also want to give a shout out to Daryl as well, who isn't a chatbot. So thanks for letting us know that. Anyone else just joining, pop a hello in the chat too. All right, so a bit more about Power Virtual Agents, and why is this something that you perhaps want to be using in your organization? Well, at the top here, what we have are the challenges that you are likely facing in your organization. Let's say you have different channels where you communicate with people on. Maybe it's your employees or your customers. Perhaps you engage via phone, email, mobile, social media. So there are all these different channels, and it's really hard to get this consistent messaging across all of them. So we have the number of the channels growing. And think about how long it takes to fulfill the request. If I wanted to go and maybe I needed help with a lawyer, I wanted to go get a lawyer, I might go send them an email, and maybe I'm waiting a day to get a response back. So there is a delay between the request going through and actually getting back to the customer. Shortage of technical skills. Typically, you need people with the technical skills and your developers to be building this technology out for you, which then also leads to time and budget constraints to even build this in the first place. So with these challenges, what we have underneath are ways that Power Virtual Agents and this bot technology comes in to address these to help us. With PVA, we have standardized, or by the way, PVA, that's short for Power Virtual Agents, which is the tool we're looking at today, just in case if I say these a few times. So PVA, we're building out these standardized answers for people. And no matter if they're coming to us to talk to us via phone, talking to a bot on our website, sending an email, talking to us on our social media, we can deploy this bot we're building across all of these channels. So there's that consistent messaging to address all of these places. And even more, people, when they talk to the bot, they're getting a response back immediately. There's no need for them to wait a day or however long it might be to get the answer back to them. The best thing about this as well is that anyone can go and build this. So you don't need to be a developer. You don't even need a strong technical background or anything like that. The tools we're going to show you today are all no code. We build our bot out using a graphical interface, which is really amazing. So no prior technical skills needed. After today's session, I'm sure you're going to go and build your own bots out. So excited to see what you do with that. All right, so that's a bit more about Power Virtual Agents. Amanda, do you want to take us through the next part here about how we might want to use these bots that we're building?
Yeah, so essentially, look, we've described two different key scenarios here. There's an internal scenario and an external scenario. But essentially, it's going to come down to, 4 or 5 key things. You're either providing information to people. So that could be some sort of automated QA or Q&A or FAQ or a simple, research task like I ask X, you give me the answer, which is Y. or it could be more complex, like, as I said, some sort of research tool where there is some sort of conditional logic of filtering of information or analysing to come up with, down a pathway to get to a specific answer. You can use it to collect information from people. So that is typically used in the context of intake and triage, like client interviews, what are your details, and we'll get back to you. It can also be used to automate some sort of process, like sending notifications, sending emails, sending some sort of approval process, posting a chat to a channel, or to automate some sort of document. And again, that can be a letter, a form, a court document, a contract, whatever sort of documentation you want to capture. So just a 2-second interlude because we mentioned last week that we can also use forms or Microsoft Forms for some of those similar activities. And yes, forms can be used to capture information from clients. It's just a little bit more, and it does sometimes have its advantages, but as compared to chatbots, it's just a little bit more rigid in its ability to dynamically have that fluid conversational style, flexible question answer model. So you might have scenarios where you do want to use a form because you want a specific set of answers to a series of questions, but there is that balance between if I've got a required question and a user doesn't know what the answer to that required question is, then I can't click submit. Chatbots provide a little bit more flexibility in that for those scenarios. And look, lastly, before we jump into the demo, I just want to touch on the ethical considerations of designing a chatbot, because it does raise some questions which you don't have when you are designing a form. We ran a session on ethics and technology a couple of months ago, and there is a degree of, especially when you're designing chatbots, think user first. What is it that my end user, my client, my customer is thinking? What's in their mind? What is their focus? What's the language that they are expecting in terms of the questions that the bot is going to ask? So you really need to think about customer first, not your process or not your internal process. There are a couple of other rules of thumb, which is firstly, and it's even law in some states in the US, that you need to say that you're a bot when you're actually designing your bot, because if you aren't and users are expecting that there is a human behind it, there can be that mismatch between expectations and reality, and it might make them feel a little bit disappointed. And there can be some potential negative impacts. If you are going to go down a path of having a chatbot, but you're really in an area which is quite sensitive, it could be domestic violence, it could be something, and especially in the access to justice domain where there is, issues of suicide or family violence, you've got to be very cognizant of the fact of the order that you're asking the questions to be sensitive to what those users are thinking about. So that's why throughout this entire discussion, it really does come down to what is in the end user's frame of reference when you're designing your bot. Okay, let's move over to a demo. Roshona, to start off, can you show us where Power Virtual Agents lives, or where we can find it and how we can sign up for a free trial?
Yep, exactly. All right. Great tips there, Amanda, as well. So let's get stuck into it and let's see where we can go and find Power Virtual Agents to build our bots. So there are two places. We have the website and also Microsoft Teams as well. So over here, we have the web page where you can go and find this. So if you go over to web.powerva.microsoft.com, this is the full version of Power Virtual Agents. So if you're looking to publish a bot to a range of channels, we have some listed here, which I'll point out. You want to build a bot to put on Microsoft Teams, your own website, like your company website, a mobile app, Facebook, give it a voice chat, Slack, email. So these are all the channels that we can deploy our bot to that we build. So we build our bot here, but then there's also another version, which is a Teams app. And this is something that's included on your Teams license. You can, of course, also get a free trial of this one here that I'm showing you. Just head over to that website and you'll be able to find it. So Teams, by the way, this is what you would use if you want to build a bot for your employees to use. The demo we have prepared for you at the end is one where we'll be building a bot. Our colleagues can talk to it. It's a bit like, you have a colleague that you can talk to, but it's a bot instead. And you build this over in the Teams app. So in Teams, if you just head over into your apps area, look for Power Virtual Agents. I'm already in it here. And down the side, you can see all the chatbots that you have created. Every team, so I have this one called Legal Team here, has its own chatbots that you create. So you pick your team, then you specify, then you build the bots, and it's sort of like the home for the bot that you've made. So you can see here in my legal team, I have one called Legal Larry when it loads. So you can give it a name and everything like that. So these are the two places we have Teams, the Teams app, and also the Virtual Agents website as well.
Thanks, Roshona. Okay, well, let's go into what Power Virtual Agents interface actually looks like and where you go to get started in building a bot, where the topics are, where the conversations are. Let's take a bit of a deeper look around.
Yep, sure thing. So actually, it's quite similar between the Teams app and the website itself. So, I'm going to get over into my one here, Legal Larry. But when that loads, you'll notice that it's pretty similar to the full version as well. Just the difference is that we don't have all these other channels that we can publish it out to. So first off, creating our bot. We can create multiple bots. Over here, I won't create a new one now, but we can click New Bot. We can give it a name. So over here, my one is just called Contoso Law Helper. You can give it whatever you would want your bot to be named. So the other one you saw was called Legal Larry, I think it was. So then you can also pick the language that your bot will speak. So actually, I see a question here. Can a bot be enabled to detect the language used in a question and answer in the correct language for multilingual client population? Yes, you can. So when you set your bot up in Power Virtual Agents, you will specify the language for it. So over here, I'm going to specify English United States, and that's the only language this bot will speak. So if you do want to create a bot in another language, you would have to create another bot for that purpose and specify the other language here. So each bot can only speak one language, but there is this tool called Bot Framework Composer. We won't cover that in today's session, but that's something you can use where you can detect the language like you have in your question there to be able to see what language someone is saying and then direct them to the right bot that you've created. But at this stage, each bot will speak one language. And once you hit create, you have your bot and then you're ready to go ahead and set it up. From the home page, we have where we can test the bot out. So if I say hello there, it's going to run through the conversation we have to greet us. These conversations, we call these topics in Power Virtual Agents. So think about the different things people are going to be asking your bot about or talking to it for. So over here, we have our Contoso Law Helper. And maybe someone might come to the bot and wants to contact us. So I've created a topic for contact request. Another one might be they want to see what our opening hours are or what our business hours are. So I've created a topic about that. I'm going to go into one of these topics, which is the greeting one that we have. And this is the one that you've just seen run through there. As it said hello, it's gone ahead and it's run through this conversation. This is the conversation tree where we do all the building. So no code. This is where we can add the messages and the questions that our bot is going to be asking. We can configure this as well as we want. So we see that first response it said. Go ahead and change it if you want. You can give the bot its own personality this way. So maybe we want to say, hello, I'm a bot. You can really bring through your company's branding as well with the type of language you use here. So, configure this as you want. And then you might even have some other questions or a different way that it greets people. So, now if we go and test this out, let's say hello. And you can see we've gone through and it's updated that response that I've given it. And as we go throughout the demo today, we'll show you as well how we create this, how we can ask questions and so on. But that's just a bit of a taste of how we can go and configure the conversations that we have. And also later throughout the session today, I'll talk through some of these other areas we have called entities and analytics. So don't worry, we'll get to those in a moment. And publishing it out. Once we make our changes to the bot, we hit publish and then we can specify the channel we want to send it off to. For demonstration purposes, we also have this demo website, which is a link URL to the bot. So, if you're building it out, you want to get someone to go and test it, you can simply just grab this link, share it with them, and they can talk to the bot on this demo website. So the publishing when it comes to our bot we've created in Microsoft Teams is slightly different. I'll bring that up towards the end of the session. But here we can specify a team and share it with our colleagues to be able to use our bot. But you will notice that between our Teams app and that website, it's all quite similar between the different areas and how we configure the topics that we're going to be taking a look at. All right, so Amanda, I think that's all for the tour that we have of PVA. What's the first scenario we want to take a look at?
Yeah, let's start off with something relatively easy. Let's use a bot to demonstrate how it can answer some sort of simple question. So I guess we'll use the example of asking a business for its opening hours. But if you're a legal practitioner, think in a law firm, for example, it could be a bot which answers any sort of simple question like where are your offices, where are your branches, what areas of law do you practice in, or even how can I get out of a traffic fine? Or if you're in a corporate legal department, it might be something like, do I need an NDA, or where is our privacy policy, or is an ASX disclosure required? So think about the type of scenarios that are relevant to you. It really is just a simple question. The bot gives an answer scenario for our first one. Over to you, Roshona.
Yep, good idea. I reckon let's start off easy. Why not? All right, so let's create the topic. This is going to be a simple one, like Amanda said. We'll create one where people can just find out the answer to what are your business hours or what are your operating hours. So over in our bot, we can click on New Topic. And we can give this topic a name. Let's call it Business Hours so we know what it's about. And the next point here is we want to be adding in trigger phrases. So these are the things that you're expecting your customer to be saying, or what's going to direct them to this conversation. So someone might maybe say to the bot, like, when can I contact you? So let's add that in. And we'll add in a few more. You probably want about 5 to 10 trigger phrases. Think about the different ways and the different words people would use to communicate that they want to find out what your business hours are. So what do we have here? When do you close? What time do you open? And like you can see, these don't need to be complete sentences either. A few words is fine. The words your customers are going to use. Things like capitalization, plurals, it doesn't make a difference either. So don't need to be full-on sentences. And there are some tips here on how you can write these too. So with our trigger phrases in there, this is a simple one. We're just going to tell them what it is. So we'll add in a message node, which is already there. And there we go. To model out this conversation, we have all these nodes that we can bring in. So that one there was a message that allows us to simply just type in text. You can see we can also format it a bit, like add bold, bullet points if we wanted to as well. We'll get to questions in the next few ones that we do, but we can also add in conditional branching. Ask a question, that's where we're expecting a response back from the user. Call an action is where we're going to be taking some action and getting some processes to run in the background of this topic we've created. We can direct it to another topic we've set up, or what we'll do now, we'll go ahead and we'll end the conversation. So we've got that saved, and once that's done, let's go ahead and give it a test. So if I say, when do you close? And there we go. We've got that simple topic working. Before we move on to the next one, I will also point out another feature that's here as well, is this thing called suggest topics. So most likely you probably already have maybe something like an FAQ page on your website. So what this does is if you just have a link to where that FAQ is, it could be on a website, it could be on a Word doc or on a PDF, just grab a link to it, put it in here. And this suggest topics is actually going to extract those questions that you have. So this is a fast way to get your existing content into your bot. So you'll have a topic for something like, what are your business hours? And then the response back would be the message or what the answer is on that content that you have. So definitely give this a go too if you already have that topic or that content that exists if you want to get it into your bot. All right, Amanda, back to you now.
Okay, well, let's take it up a notch. So now let's do a little bit more than just providing an answer to a question. Let's imagine a scenario where a client needs help from a lawyer in a particular area of law. And here we not only want to direct that user to the relevant lawyer, but we also want to capture some of their details so that we can post a notification to our team to say, hey, there's been a new inquiry. So this can be really useful in any sort of lead generation or client intake where there's a request, and it can be used both internally, someone from the business asking a request from the legal team, or externally if you're a law firm to get new clients in the door. Rashona, can you show us how to do that?
Yep, sure thing. So this is where it gets a bit more interesting because we're going to be taking action, and you're also going to see how the bot can recognize the type of language that you would use as well. All right, so let's head over into the demo first. I'll show us how this would work from the customer's perspective, and then I'll show you the back end and how we can go and build this one. So let's say I go to my bot and I say I need a lawyer. So what it's going to do now is it's going to collect some information from me, and we have a process here which I'll point out as we go through it. We've set up some categories for the type of help that we want. So if I was to go through and if I select family, what it's going to do now is there's actually a Power Automate process that we've set up that's going to recover this information that you see. So we actually have a spreadsheet with our lawyer's name and the expertise, their area, and it's going to recover that info. So that's one part of it that will show you how to build. And let's say now, yes, I would like them to contact me. So we'll go through and answer these questions. Let's say name, let's say email address. We're going to add in some other text here as well so you can see how it works. My email is, and other details. We'll add in some comments here. All right, so what it's done now is you can see how it's reused that information I've just provided it. So it stores this information, which we can use in other processes that we want to run. So as I was talking to the bot, a few things happened here. So if we go a bit further above, this other one I pointed out is I said that this was recovered from a spreadsheet. It told us who our family lawyer is because I said I wanted to know more about family law. So actually over in Teams, what we have is I have this spreadsheet. It's a table created in Excel. Pretty simple. It has my Teams members listed. It has their email address and it has their expertise area. So there is a process that's running while I'm talking to that bot that's going into this table, this spreadsheet, and recovering that information from me. So if I was to say I was interested in corporate, it would give me the details of Rebecca. Then further down here, we gave the details that we wanted to pass on. And then our bot told us that it's passed on the details to Alex Hunter and given us their email address. So what's that done in the back end is we have that message posted in Teams, that one here that we just did, and it also mentioned that staff member to notify them. So I'm Alex Hunter in this scenario. in my Teams notifications, you can see it's given me a notification about that. So keep in mind that this could be any process that you want. Last week, we took a look at Power Automate. We showed you what type of things you can do with it. So think about those same type of examples. If you can build it with Power Automate, you can pretty much get your bot to do it in virtual agents as well. So think about the different applications you use, maybe something like SharePoint, Teams, email, Twitter, Salesforce, whatever it might be. You can connect your bot up to that stuff using Power Automate, which we'll show you in a moment. All right, so let's see how we went and we created this bot. We'll create this one from scratch, but since we are in a demo, I won't spend too much time on it. I'll go through a bit fast, but I'll show you how it collects that information. All right, so first of all, let's call this one contact. I call it contact request. I think I have another one called that. I just call it V1 just for the demo purposes. But typically, you wouldn't do that. And now we're going to add in a few trigger phrases. So think about things someone might say. Say, I need a lawyer. I've been arrested. So anything someone might say where you want to direct them to get the details from them. I need help with a divorce and so on. I'll stick with these three for now so we can get to building out the conversation. All right, so with that done, let's go ahead and we'll add in a message node. And now we come to a point where we want to get the type of law that this person is interested in getting more info about. So we're going to use a thing called entities here to recognize the type of legal expertise that they're after. And this is going to help us direct it to the right staff, the right person, where we can look up that spreadsheet to let us know who's the lawyer we should be contacting here. So before I do that, actually, let's create the question first. So if I do create a question and let's say, what type of help do you need? This identify field is what we call the entity. So this is what the bot is going to recognize. If we were expecting the person to give us an email address, we could select the email entity that's here. If we're expecting a date from them, the language, the country, we would specify that in this identify field. I've created this one called legal expertise that has these different categories that we've set up. And we can see these options here. I'll tick those so that we can see it in a multiple choice option. And let's go ahead and call that one legal expertise. So this, by the way, is what we call a variable, this thing that I've just written here. These are things that the bot is going to remember throughout the conversation. And you'll see how we'll use this throughout that flow that we'll build as well. Let me just go ahead and hit save here. We'll come back to that in a moment. I'm going to first show us this entity that we have set up. So if I talk to my bot, actually, let's head over to entities first. Our pre-built entities are the ones that you see here, things that the bot is already trained to recognize, which we'll use throughout our conversation as well. But I've actually gone ahead and created this one called new entity. And I've selected a closed list. And this is where I'm listing down the type of legal expertise that we have. So the types of content that's specific to your organization, so the legal expertise you deal with is, for example, something you would set up as an entity. So what we've done here is I've listed down our main categories of expertise: family, property, criminal, corporate, and I've even added in synonyms as well. So if someone goes and they type in divorce, it's going to recognize that as family law, and it will take that as their response. So it's intelligent. We don't need to write word for word what we're after. It's able to identify other terms people might use that's going to direct them to the right place as well. So you can see here, property, you got mortgage, lease, apartment, things like that. So what this means, so if I was to go over into my conversation, and if I start off the conversation with, I'm getting a divorce, or I need help with a divorce. It's like that one. Let me go back into my topic actually. I knew I should have put all the trigger phrases down when I was building this one out, right? So if we say I need help with the divorce, so what it will do is that it's going to identify that I said divorce in my trigger phrase that I used there. And because we set that up as a synonym, it's going to automatically detect that family is that category that we want. So it will even go and skip this question here rather than asking again, what is the expertise you require? Because it's already going to know that because we've set that up. All right, so the next part of this is that we want to now create a flow that's going to look up that spreadsheet that we have. So over here in our conversation, we're going to use this thing called call and action. And we'll go ahead and create a new flow. So once again, what this is going to do, what we're going to build here, is we want to go and recover some information from this spreadsheet that we have, where we'll see we're after family law, we'll see who that team member is and send that back to the conversation. So over in Power Virtual Agents, we've got our flow, and this is the template that we start off with. So we have this trigger at the top, which is called the Power Virtual Agents one. And what we'll do here is we're going to go ahead and list down our input. This is going to link back to that information that I provided the bot already. So let's call this one legal expertise. Got that wrong, but that's all right. We'll keep going. And over here, now that we've got that, we can add in the actions that we want to occur. We're going to go ahead with this Excel one. And let's do get a row because we're looking up a row in that table that we have. So we'll go ahead and we'll get our team here. So that file that I had was stored in the legal team, document library, and that file itself was called general and team legal expertise. So we've connected to the table that we want. So now in this key column, we're going to specify the column that we want to look up. So over here, I'll click my expertise column, which is one of the ones we have in that spreadsheet. And this key value is what that search term is going to be. So what we're going to do here is if we look for legal expertise, we have that input that you saw me create earlier over here. So that information we provided, we're going to look that up in the spreadsheet. So next, we want to extract some of the information from that. We'll add in another action, which is going to be initialize variable. So this essentially is just saying to pull out this information from that spreadsheet. So let's call it staff member. We'll make that a string because it's a string of text we want to extract. And over here, I now have that information from that spreadsheet that I can insert throughout this as well. So team member is one of those columns that I have. And we'll also get the email address as well, which was over on that spreadsheet too. So let's add in another initialize variable. And this time we'll call this one staff email. We'll set the type as string again and value email. And we'll put in that email address. So finally, this last one that we have here is any info that we want to return back to the conversation. Because like we've done here, our flow is recovering information. Now we want to go ahead and send it back. So what we'll do here is that we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in these outputs that we have. So text, we'll call that one the staff name. And now we're going to enter in that dynamic content from this one that we've just pulled out there. So let's say we want the staff member. We'll go ahead and we'll link these in. And save that. So this is the part of the flow. Actually, before we do that, I might just rename it. Actually, never mind. Let's keep going. So once this flow is done, we can go back into Power Virtual Agents and now connect it up to it. So over here in my call and action, I'm going to go ahead and specify that flow I've just created. So what we're doing here now is that flow that we created. If you remember at the start, we had that input called legal expertise. We're simply going to link it up to that variable that we have listed here called legal expertise. So once I say that I'm interested in family law, the flow will take that and use that information in my flow. And then we can also reuse this information. So if I was to type in a message now, like your staff member is, we can enter that in. So we'll go staff name and their email is. You can see how we can now reuse that information generated from our flow in that topic that we have set up. So I realize we're running short on time, so I won't go through step by step on how to build this. So I'm going to bring up the one that I've created before to show you the rest of that, how we built the rest of it. So let me go ahead and bring it up. All right, so at this point, we've built the part where it looks up that information. And now we've built in what info we want to get from this person so we can pass it on to a team member. So the next thing I've done here is I've added in a question node, letting them know or asking them, do you want me to pass on their details or let them know that you contacted them? So in my identify field for this one, it's a yes or no response. I'm expecting that. So I've set Boolean as my option there. And you can see how we have this conditional branching built into this too. So if they say, yes, I want more info, you can see you can add it in a condition like that, different branching. So if they say yes, we're going to grab their details. If not, we have a different message here, which is let them know, give us a call instead, if that's what you want to do. So further down, you can see we're now asking this info. What's your name? And we're storing their name. Your email address, we're identifying their email address. So the reason for this identify field is that no matter what I type in, because I might type in a full-on paragraph that contains my email in it, the bot is going to be able to recognize that this is an email address. It's in that email address format and pull that out. So this is what allows people to engage naturally with the bot, and the bot is able to pinpoint the exact information that they need. Any other details will take the entire response from the user to pass on for our comments. So let me open up the flow that we've built here. And this part of the flow is going to go ahead and send off this information to notify our staff member. So to talk us through what we've done here, once again, I've started with Power Virtual Agents. Those questions that I asked, we've listed these down as these inputs that we want to use. For our first action that we've added in, because we want to send our staff member a notification, I've added in this Teams action, which of course you've just looked for Teams, you'll be able to find them all. But the one I've used down the bottom here is get the @mention token. And to do that, I need that staff member's email address. So I've inserted the email address so we can look up that info. And then my next one will be to post a message in Teams. So I've used that post a message action. I've specified the channel I want to post it in, which is over in our legal team. And I've also now inserted that message. So with the message in this case, you can format it as you want. You can see I've used that @mention token from the user, and I've inserted in that dynamic content, which are those inputs from that conversation. So then end result is when I'm talking to the bot, it's what we have here, where it will take that info provided and post it in Teams and send us that notification there. Then finally, to finish that one off, let's head back into the bot we've created. We've just sent a confirmation message at the bottom here to let them know we've passed on the details to the staff member and their email address is so-and-so if you wanted to go and contact them. All right, so that was a big one, but like I said, feel free to go back and rewatch this as well if you wanted to take a closer look at the flows that we've used or try and build this yourself. All right, Amanda, I reckon we're ready for the next one now that we have planned, or any questions as well that we have.
Sure. Let's go on to the next one, and we can answer some questions on the way. This one is a bit of a bugbear. So, Roshana, you took us through so thoroughly how you can sort of get that information and do some sort of action with it, send a notification, look something up. Let's do what is that common bugbear in lawyers, which is automate some sort of document. So it could be a letter, it could be a form, there might be some complex calculations going on in the background. Let's use that NDA example that we talked about last week and see how you can link a bot to automate a document.
Yep. All right, let's get into that. So this is my favorite part of the demo, the document automation stuff. So if you joined us on our session a couple weeks ago on automation, it's similar to that one, but instead we're going to be using a chatbot to do this. So let me show you what this is going to look like for our employee or our colleague who is talking to the bot. So as a colleague of this place or an employee here, I have this bot I've created called Legal Larry, where I can go through to all my legal team type requests. He sits as an app here where I can go and talk to him. And he's also available in my chat too, where I can go and talk to him here. So if I say something like I need to draft an NDA, Legal Larry will go through the topic I've set up. And what we've done here is you only need it if you're exchanging confidential info. Here's a link to our policy. So you can even embed links to external documentation or anything like that people can click on. But let's go ahead. Let's say, yes, I want my NDA. So now our bot is going to go ahead and ask us some questions. And these questions are what's going to populate this document that we're creating. So let's say permitted purposes business. Then next up, what's the governing law? I could say something like it will be NZ. So here it's expecting me to type in the name of a country. And term, let's say 2 years, please. So another demonstration of how these entities work and how the bot is able to recognize things. You can see right in action here. So it's summarized what my info is that I provided. Business, it's identified the governing law as New Zealand because it can recognize countries. And even though I had a bunch of text in there, it pulled out what that number is for the term that I want. If I wasn't happy with this, I could say no, and it can even go through and ask me these questions again. So we're good with this. Let's go ahead and click yes, because we want our NDA created. So now it's going to be running a flow we've set up to go and create this for us. And there we go. In a few seconds, our document is ready. Clicking on the link, we can see we have our NDA drafted. And there's our template ready to go. It's been populated with the info that we've provided it. I mean, typically, if you're doing this, there'll be a lot more input I think you want on your template, but you can make this as complex as you want. I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to show us, first of all, the template that we're working with. This one, by the way, I've just done a blog post on it. I'll share the link in the LinkedIn chat at the end if you wanted to go and review this to see how it was done. But essentially what we've done is that NDA template that we want to generate or we want to populate is stored online. So that might be SharePoint, it might be OneDrive. Over here, I have it in OneDrive in my NDAs folder, and it's this one here. Yes, this is one NDA. A question from Daryl there. Yeah, let me bring that one up. So for this to work, similar to the session we had a couple of weeks ago, it needs to make sure you're working with a template. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Word templates, you need to work in the Developer tab of Microsoft Word, and then you can insert these different controls here. So I have one here called permitted purpose, term. So you insert these controls in the places where you want that information populated. So on my blog post, I have a bit more detail on how you can go and configure that and to set up that template to begin with. But make sure you have this template stored SharePoint, OneDrive, somewhere online for you to connect to it. All right, so that's the template we're going to be working with. Let's head over into Legal Larry and I'll show you the topic that we've set up here. So I'm going to head over into my Power Virtual Agents app for Teams. Let's go into Chatbots and open up Legal Larry. So this is a topic, of course, that I've created before called Draft NDA. So to start off with, I have my trigger phrases, which are going to direct people to this conversation. And I'll zoom in a bit so it's easier for you to see. And over here, of course, we have all that info. If you want to link or provide a hyperlink, how I showed in the demo, if you simply just highlight the text, you can add in a link this way and then just put in the URL you want to direct to. All right, so we've got our questions here. Would you like to create one? Let's say yes. So now we're going to go through and, of course, our bot is going to ask these questions. As we're going through, I might actually demo and talk to it here. Let's say draft an NDA. So as I'm going through it, you can also see how it's identifying that information down the side here. So permitted purpose, this one, it's going to take my response, let's say business. And governing law, that's going to identify a country. Picked up Australia. And term is going to identify a number. So whether I type it in as a number or the text too, it's going to pick up the same thing. We'll confirm these details. If not, so if we wanted to go back, we can actually link our conversation back to different places. So if in this case I didn't like it, I can actually just join back, like drag my conversation back to this node at the top here to go through those questions again. So your conversation can link up to different parts and skip questions as you need. All right, so now we've got the flow. We'll quickly take a look at this one. Realize we're running a bit short on time. We had a lot to pack it into this one. There's a lot of stuff you can do with PEA. But to show us the flow, like I said, I've done a blog post on this if you want to take a closer look. So over here, we have those inputs that we got from the conversation. We've listed them down at the top here. And then we've inserted this one, which is called populate your Microsoft Word template. So this is what's going to do that action of taking the template and filling our details in it. So simply we've navigated to where we have that file stored, that one NDA template, and then we've added in the details here and linked up that dynamic content from the conversation. So it's actually brought through, if you remember, this links up to those controls that we had in that template of the information we want to populate. So this action here called get time, the reason I've inserted that one is just because I need a unique name for the name of the document I'm generating. Because if you have a file called the same thing each time, you're going to get an error and your flow won't run. So what I've done here, I've added in my SharePoint action to create a file. I've navigated where I want this stored. So it's going to be stored in my NDA folder. And then I've specified the name of that document to be created. And finally, that file content, I've inserted in some more dynamic content taken from this previous action here. And now I want to recover where this file is stored and a link to that. So I've added in this SharePoint action called get the properties of it. And just taking a look at the ID of that, I can now return that link over into my bot conversation here. So since we're short for time, I won't go into this into more detail, but I will post a link to the blog post I've just done to get it for you to take a closer look at this flow I've created. Once we're back in Power Virtual Agents, we've linked up that flow into the conversation. We've got that output for the file, and then we've added in a link to that file over in the message here. So end result, when that runs, over here we have that document stored. And you can see it matches up with that same file name and everything that I've gave it. And it's going to be populated with that information it collected from us throughout the conversation. All right, Amanda, and that's how we do document automation with Power Virtual Agents.
Thanks, Roshona. I know that was a lot to cover in a very short space of time. Here I go with the lights turning off again in the office. Okay, look, in the last couple of minutes, can you just show us a little bit about the analytics, how we can see the success rate, how we can see the abandon rates, and use the analytics that Microsoft provide for some sort of continuous improvement and to help us continually change the needs of the bot over time?
Yep, all right. So of course, people are using the bot, but we need some feedback to see how it's performing, of course. So we can get this from the analytics area of Power Virtual Agents. So what we have here, it's an embedded Power BI report to give us those types of insights, where we can see what's working, what isn't, what we perhaps need to change. So over here, we have this report. We can interact with it as well. So if I want to see things like the total sessions someone has I can click on that. If I just want to see which ones have been resolved, I can click into that. Another thing that we have here are these different rates or the session outcomes over time. So importantly, if people are dropping out of the conversation and they're abandoning it, I can go and I can drill into that, this orange line that you see there. So what it will do, if I click into that, it will tell me exactly which are the topics people are abandoning it on. I can simply just go to the topic from my analytics page and then go make whatever edits I need. So it's very easy to be looking at this page for feedback, drilling into it, seeing the outcomes of the conversation, and then go and modifying your conversation from there. So when you build your bot, it's not definite. So you can keep adding more things to it. You can keep improving it, creating more topics. So everything like that as well. And I also just noticed we had a question in the chat here as well. Is there a minimum set of app integrations necessary for it to function? Nope. So you can have as many or as little as you want. So that relates back to the when we were looking at bringing Power Automate into the bot that we've created. Let me see if there we go, brought that one up. So just on this one here, no, you can have in as many integrations as you need. So Power Automate, you have over 600 different connectors you can use. You can use as many or as little as you need. All right, so that's the analytics area that we have, Amanda.
Thanks, Roshona. I mean, that is probably key. And I guess to wrap up, you know, a lot of this isn't about a set and forget. If you're going to go down the path of setting up some sort of conversational AI, you do want to use it for continuous improvement. You want to see how you can better serve your clients and where your greatest areas of success are and where your areas of improvement are. So just a reminder that was session 3 of our Microsoft for Lawyers series. Next week, in about a fortnight's time, we're going to get even more technical. We're going to go through AI and document processing. And here we're going to really sort of go through how you can train a system to interpret data. We're going to use a law firm invoice or some sort of contract schedule as an example there to see how you can extract data from some forms. So I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. We'll then take a little bit of a break over the school holidays and go through some of the other sessions. So just a reminder, session 6 is going to cover some of those collaboration tools and how you can use it for document management. We'll go through email management, law firm CRM, and use a case study in the context of a community legal centre and how they've used Power Apps. So there's lots still to come. Thank you for your engagement. The next session, session 5, is now live. So just while it's fresh in your mind, jump on right away, click attend so you'll get that notification and it'll come up in your calendar, and share it with all your network. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you shortly.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining today. We'll see you next time.